My name is Jory Van Cleve. Today I'm going to be talking about plasma clearance. Before we dive into plasma clearance, we need to understand what the kidneys are and what their functions are. The kidneys are bean shaped organs found in the excretory system. These organs have a huge job in filtering and eliminating waste from our blood. These wastes can include things such as ions, drugs, vitamins, as well as many other things. Once the wastes are filtered out of the blood, through the kidneys then eliminate the waste through urine. Our kidneys receive a liter of blood every minute. This is why our kidneys are so important. They are constantly filtering our blood and producing urine that the waste are eliminated from. In fact, our kidneys produce around 1.5 liters of urine a day. Um, that is why the kidneys are so important that when people have poor renal functioning, that they go through dialysis, where the dialysis machine actually filters the blood for the kidneys. So it's very important that they do their jobs. In order to eliminate waste from our body, kidneys produce urine. Urine allows waste to collect, to be distributed outside the body to prevent a toxic buildup. The three main substances that are excreted through the urine are metabolic waste, electrolytes, and water. Urea and creatinine are examples of metabolic waste that need to be eliminated. Electrolytes include inorganic compounds such as sodium, potassium, calcium, and chlorine, as well as others. Urine is made whether there are wastes to be eliminated or not. So even when you're dehydrated, your body still produces urine. However, the urine may be concentrated um, or more concentrated when there's less water in it. The color chart shown on the slide can help determine a person's hydration. Some foods and medications, as well as infections, could also have an effect on the color of urine. So you can just tell the darker your urine is, the less water content there is, and maybe the more urea, the more yellow it is. Or even when you get to that 6, 7, 8, the more blood or medications and stuff can cause that as well. Plasma clearance, also known as renal clearance, refers to the ability of the kidneys to remove molecules and waste from the blood by excreting them into the urine. Plasma clearance is affected by numerous things. The three main things it depends on is glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, and tubular secretion. Each type of substance needing to be eliminated from the blood takes a different amount of time. If any of the three dependent factors change, the renal clearance rate of that substance will also change. These three processes involved in plasma clearance ensures that water and waste are the only things excreted from the body. If you notice on the slide, it just shows, even in the rats, how their kidneys work. You've got your kidneys and your ureters, the bladder, and it just shows inside of the kidney the glomerular filtration, and it shows the capillaries and the tubular where the blood flow goes, and the tubular secretion and or reabsorption, um, and how that works in the rat. Glomerular filtration is the passive filtration of blood as it moves through the glomeruli of the kidneys. This is the first step in making urine. The filtration of the substance depends on its size, its binding to proteins, ionization, polarity, and kidney function. As the glomerular filtration increases, the clearance also increases. Just as when there's a decrease in filtration, there's also a decrease in clearance. Glomerular filtration rate is one of the best tests to use in order to measure kidney function. Glomerular filtration can be calculated by looking at the blood creatinine test, the age of the patient, the body size, and the gender of the patient. This can show the stage of kidney disease if one is present. Each kidney contains over 1 million nephrons, which each have a glomerulus. This structure is the site of the blood filtration. Essentially, the glomerulus is a network of tiny capillaries surrounded by a cup-like structure called a capsule. This capsule is known as the Bowman's capsule. Blood begins to flow through the glomerulus as blood pressure pushes out water and solutes from the capillaries into the capsule, then into the filtration system. This filtration system allows water and small substances to pass, but it's going to keep the large proteins and blood cells from passing. And in this drawing on this slide, it just shows that Bowman's capsule. You can see the capillaries throughout on the inside of that, and you can see the tubule, the afferent and efferent pathways, and it just kind of shows that flow in and out of that area. Tubular reabsorption is the second step in plasma clearance. This process moves solutes and water out of the filtrated liquid and back into the bloodstream. This is the second time the substances are reabsorbed or absorbed into the bloodstream. The first time it was absorbed was when the person ate their meal or brought in the substance to their bodies. We cannot excrete every single thing we put into our bodies, because if we did, we would lose way too much. As a matter of fact, we'd lose about 10 times the volume of the extracellular body fluids. The kidneys use the nephrons to help maintain body fluid homeostasis. There are 5 different sections of nephrons that are responsible for reabsorption of the different materials. This step is the second step in creating urine. The graphic on the slide depicts the different segments located within the nephrons that deals with the reabsorption of different substances. The proximal convoluted tubule is responsible for reabsorbing substances such as glucose, amino acids, urea, sodium, potassium, phosphate, calcium, magnesium, and water. The proximal straight tubule is responsible for reabsorbing phosphate, while the thick ascending limb is responsible for reabsorbing sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. The distal convoluted tubule reabsorbs sodium, calcium, magnesium, water, and urea. The collecting duct is responsible for reabsorbing sodium, water, and urea, as the bladder reabsorbs potassium, magnesium, phosphate, and a little bit of sodium, calcium, water, and urea. And you notice that I repeated many of those things on the different portions of those nephrons. Some parts absorb more of each of the substances like sodium and water than the other parts do, but they each have an area to where they could be absorbed or reabsorbed. And so you just have to look through those spots and see that. But the picture also points out the different areas of the different things that I mentioned are reabsorbed. Tubular secretion is one of the last steps in urine formation and plasma clearance. This still deals with filtering blood to help create urine that is used to eliminate waste. Tubular secretion is an important step in removing drugs, toxins, and poisons from the body, as well as excessive amounts of things such as potassium, hydrogen, and urea. The nephrons found within the kidneys also help with tubular secretion. The substances move from the blood through the capillaries and into the interstitial fluid. From there, they travel through the wall of the tubule and into the lumen. From there, secretion will take place at a different segment of the tubule, just as the resorption did. Most drugs and toxins are secreted into the proximal tube, where they then move the urine to be excreted. And if you look at this picture, this shows the Bowman's capsule as well. Has the afferent and efferent arteriole, has the cortical radiate arteries of the glomerular capillaries. So this same area, again, deals with the reabsorption and the secretion. But you can see the tubular reabsorption area in the red, and you can see the tubular secretion area in the blue. And so it's much of the same areas for the 2 different processes. As I was researching, I found an article about a bioengineered kidney tubule that was used to excrete uremic toxins. So people were looking at this end-stage renal disease and understood that it causes a severe dysfunction and eliminating waste from the body. A study conducted by Janssen and his cohorts realized that current dialysis therapies were not cutting it because it did not allow for the sufficient removal of toxins. Therefore, patients had a high morbidity and mortality rate. Therefore, they found that it was important to develop an alternative treatment. Thus, a bioengineered renal tubule was developed. And they did that so that toxins could be eliminated from the body. This concept actually was born in the 1980s using non human cell models such as dogs and pigs. Phases 1 and 2 continued with trials um, showing a reduction of cytokine levels and long term survival numbers. Different contributors throughout the years from the 80s on continued to study the concept of the last century into this century and made a great stride with the availability of stem cells. The potency of 8 different toxins were studied in order to reveal the cytotoxic potentials. Chemical and cell cultures were obtained in order to assess the toxicity. Cell viability was assessed, and the barrier function was investigated of the monolayer, polarization, and transepithelial barrier function. Diffusion was measured as 4 different regions were analyzed in the bioengineered tubule. These observations concluded that the reabsorption was in fact taking place in the newly developed kidney and that there was a presence of active endocytosis. The data showed that albumin was reabsorbed by the membrane and not the toxins. As you look at the graphic on the slide, you can see that the bioengineered renal tubules showed transepithelial barrier function as well as polarized characteristics. There are representative real-time images of unseeded and seeded conditions where bright green signal showed up on the absence of cells in the apical membrane. And you can see that. Let me mark it right in here. You see this green area. You can even see this green area here where it shows those areas that light up bright green. 4 different regions were also looked at. This study had the potential to save many lives, or does have the potential to save many lives, of people who are in end-stage renal failure. The function of our kidneys is vital to living healthy and to having a healthy life. And something like this could end having to do dialysis for hours upon hours every day. There are some people that go through dialysis daily for several hours a day. Some might only have it 1 or 2 times a week to 3 times a week. So these bioengineered kidney tubules could really help save some time for these people that are having to spend so much time not being able to work and just sitting somewhere all day long, letting a machine do the filtering of their blood for them. Anyway, so it was a pretty interesting read about these tubules, and interesting that they've been working on it for so long. And so I just know that there will be more and more things that can help people that are in end-stage renal failure.